Are you a business owner looking for real advice and input? You're in the right place. From concept to launch to growth, funding, and beyond. Welcome to Startup Hustle with your hosts. One once sold a business for $150 million. The other, the author of $1 Million Bedroom. Here are your hosts of Startup Hustle, Matt DeCoursey and Matt Watson.
And we're back. Another episode of Startup Hustle. Matt DeCoursey here with Jake Randall, who will be sitting in for Matt Watson today. Hi, Jake.
Well, good afternoon, good sir.
Yeah, and we're going to talk all about you and some other stuff soon. And, we had, Master Watson was called away on an emergency. Everything's okay, but he was unavailable. So we're going to, you know what?
Go big or go home.
Yeah, but life moves on. And we're going to talk about that in so many different ways. Today's subject is business failure, and it's important in so many different ways. First off is, if you're listening to this, you're probably someone that has an interest in entrepreneurship, business, and so many other things. And guess what? You're going to fail a lot. You're going to fail a lot. And you, sir, have been successful in so many different things, and then also have some experience with challenging situations that you are quite open about. And I think it's awesome that you are.
Thank you.
Because you're doing it for the right reasons. You're not complaining or bitching or like blaming.
No, you have to wake up and own it.
Yeah. And don't it?
And don't it?
Oh, wait. So let's talk about that. So, all right. So Jake, you're local here in Kansas City, and right now you work as the project lead and in business development at a company called Freedom Interiors.
Yeah.
But you have a history as an entrepreneur, and I first learned it because you came to one of our events.
Yeah.
At Royal Stadium,
yeah,
and we started talking about it, and I was like, dude, really? and the thing was, I was impressed, and also on some level you're always kind of like shocked a little bit when people are really open about things, because I think as people in general, we love to talk about all the stuff we're great at.
Yeah.
No one will tell you how great I am more than I will. Right?
It's true, yeah. It's easy to talk about the success and how good you are and what you've done in your life. And
I fail all the time, man. Yeah. I'm like almost like a failure that's managed to make it. And we're going to talk about your stuff, but I'll actually, because I'm going to join you today.
Let's do that. That'd be great.
When it comes to shamelessness and just complete transparency.
We'll lick our wounds together a little bit.
Yeah, well, I don't lick the wounds. I just kind of own them now, and they've turned into scars. So much, in my book, $1 Million Bedroom, on like the second page, this was really important. I so many business books you read, and it's got some dude from like Harvard and, like blah, blah, blah. And in my second page of the book, I'm like, so I've been to 5 colleges and now I'm a junior. So as far as failure went, a lot of educational failure. On a personal level, I grew up and am still someone with a massive case of ADHD, and growing up, it was a huge challenge for me. To the point, like it really was. It was very tough to deal with, but with it came a sense of energy and drive that I wouldn't give back if I had an opportunity to do so. But along the way, it took me till, I didn't really kind of figure life out until like my late 20s.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And I wasn't like, and I've done some things well, and I've done a lot of other things poorly, but was definitely not an early starter. Like some of the people that we've talked to and some of the clients at Full
like
Scale.
16 years old.
Yeah, you're like, well, I don't know. There was someone in a meeting here recently, and the kid had graduated from college, and he was 19.
Oh, jeez.
I was like, wow.
Overachievers.
You beat me by 25 years at a minimum, dude. But yeah, so for me personally, had to figure a lot out. And quite honestly, and along the way, I wasn't positive that was going to happen, but had this like built-in feeling. It's like this manifest destiny. I knew I was supposed to be a business owner, but I had no idea how that was going to come down the pipeline. And it wasn't until a little later in my 20s when I really started taking things a lot more seriously. And I developed a sense of disbelief that I had to have a fancy college degree or anything like that to do a whole lot of stuff. But I had, growing up, it had, I grew up here in Leawood, Kansas. Okay. And for those of you that aren't from here, it's an area where most of the kids are from decent families, and we go to school and everyone goes to college, and that's kind of the way it goes, and I didn't do it that way. So there you go. And then, I kind of managed to figure some things out and taught myself a lot along the way. Did a lot of things not right, and then figured out some things to do right and did even more of those. So, yeah, anyway, I wanted to set that up. So you have an interesting story, and I want to talk about that.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. It's been a journey, to say the least. I'm laughing over here because college, I'm still 7 credits short, I think.
Are you? Welcome to the club.
I am a mutt. I really am. I went to school, I'm not even joking, I went to school in the Chicago area for youth ministry.
Really?
Yeah.
Like college?
Yes.
Oh,
I
wow.
went to college, spent a lot of money to get a degree in youth ministry.
Amen.
Geez, oh Pete's. And then the things we learn, right? I wouldn't call that necessarily a failure, but it was definitely not the right journey or path for me. But ended up in a band, ended up touring.
Nice.
But that's the early stages, like you were saying, is you knew that you were to be an entrepreneur. That was my whole life since I was my parents always said.
I knew since I was like 5.
Yes,
maybe even sooner.
I always had this drive. Whatever I put my heart into, it was going to be mine. I was going to own it. And the other thing, like I was saying, is I've always had the ability to surround myself with people that are better than me. Mm-hmm. And that was always the case of if I can draw people into this dream, this idea, whatever it may be, a band, this, that, whatever. I've had a million little businesses.
So you too have ADD.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
I didn't know I had it.
Yeah.
And then, like, my wife, we've been married now for going on 8, I think it's going to be 8 years. She's like, wow, like you are seriously, I could diagnose you right now.
I don't think it's a downfall, but that's a whole different subject.
No, so, I use it.
So you spent some time finding yourself, much like me.
Yeah, I did. Ended up, I lived in Michigan, grew up in Michigan, Chicago, then Valparaiso, Indiana, moved to Kansas City for love. My now wife moved out here she went to Rockhurst for speech therapy, and moved out here. I had a small little business, auto video lighting company that I owned for a while, and had enough to pay some bills, and then I ended up in the oil refine fuel market. And I ended up...
what?
Yeah, I was in sales and inside sales for... I worked my way up the ladder. I started as like a little peon and got headhunted a few times, and we did like OEM manufacturing for like crude oil trucks or propane, and I found myself sitting, and I was making more money than I've ever made in my life. Like, money was not an issue in our family. We had it, and we were moving up the right way, and no kids yet, really. Just started having some kids right at the end of this, but found myself sitting in a cubicle, and I hated my job, and I couldn't.
That's how I got into entrepreneurship myself. I hated my job. I was like, I'm just going to quit.
That's exactly.
People are like, you're crazy. That's a great job. I'm like, yeah, but I hate it.
You should have saw my boss's face when I said, here's my 2 weeks, and I'm going to go start a donut shop.
Yeah.
And he was like, what did you just say? And I'm like,
right.
And he was livid. Which I get. I mean, when I told people that I was going to start the donut lounge, whether it be my mother and father-in-law or whether it be my parents or friends, they were like, you're going to own like Dunkin' Donuts? And I'm like,
what's a donut lounge?
Yeah. Right? And so it took a lot of people to understand the concept and really we were going to be the anomaly and something really unique and different in Kansas City.
Let's back up.
Yeah.
So you didn't just walk out on your job and say, and that the moment, well, maybe you did.
No,
the moment that the concept came to mind. So you'd been mulling around the idea of a donut lounge.
Yeah, for about a year.
What's a donut lounge?
We'll start with the concept.
I like donuts and I like lounging, so I mean, I'm kind of in.
So that's what it is. So Donut Lounge was this idea where we called it swanky fun. So the concept was this donut shop meets kind of high-end fancy fun. And so, donuts are nostalgic. They're a great place for conversation or, whatever it may be, your local community donut shop. But also we wanted to throw a twist on it where we wanted to take it to the next level. So Donut Lounge was craft, creativity, and conversation was our mission. And craft being the most overused word because there's craft cocktails, craft beer, craft this. But craft is just the idea that like we put our heart, our attention, our whatever we're making, we have integrity about that. Craft conversation.
When I buy donuts, it's important to me that they were made with the utmost integrity.
Well, that's the thing is, people are laughing like people are like, what? Why are you so passionate about this? Because like, we want to do something. We want to take it to the next level, and that's who I am. I don't care if I'm playing golf. Like I think I'm going to be the next PGA. I'm going on tour next week. Like I'm going to put every effort into it. So, craft, creativity, conversation. We just wanted to create a place for people to come in the community and have good conversation. So we did cocktails, full beer. We did crazy weird food. We had an awesome donut shop and awesome coffee program.
So this was going on here in Kansas City.
Yep.
And what part of town was it in?
We started in Westport. So we were in the heart of Westport over there by like Port Fonda and California.
And we have a lot of listeners that aren't in Kansas City. So, Westport here is that kind of trendy bar area. There's a lot. I mean, there's just a lot of there's a lot of bars, a lot of restaurants. Well, if you had a donut lounge, I could see it being in that part of town.
And that's, me and my wife, we've been living in the Westport area since we've moved to Kansas City, and that was the place where they would accept this weird idea because Westport was a place of just local businesses, really outside the box, thinking it wanted to. Westport was the unique place in Kansas City.
So what did you know about making donuts at that point? Have you ever even made donuts?
So a year before I quit my job, I thought to myself, if I'm going to do this, because I talked about it all the time, because I traveled a little bit, whether it be New York or LA or Chicago, all these cities had these crazy donut shops, whether it be Voodoo Donuts, New York Donuts, there's a million of them out there that have these crazy idea concepts.
Sure.
And so I thought, man, Kansas City's ripe for something unique like this. And so I just started calling every donut shop, asking them every question I could possibly do. I started doing all these analytics and looking at cost analysis, and come to find out, dough is the second largest markup commodity in the world.
Right.
Do you know what the first one is?
No.
Potatoes.
Weird. Guess that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So fries,
right.
They cost them like 2 cents to make, and you're paying $2 for it. So,
okay.
So anyways, I'm like, okay, there's money to be had here. But then I'm like, let's look at the biggest thing is you got to get up at midnight and you're baking all day. Donuts don't stay fresh. They are you make them and you throw them out. And so I'm like, man, how is this going to work? And so I just started doing all this crazy research and started putting together this business plan and looking at what it's going to take, how much equipment's going to cost, what rent's going to cost, blah, blah, blah. And kept talking about it. But then finally I just had some friends say, Jake, it's enough. Stop talking about it. Let's do it.
Jump and build wings, dude.
Yep. And so I turned my kitchen in Westport into a little So every Saturday I'd get up crazy early and start making donuts and try new recipes, and I'd invite all my friends and my neighbors over, and then every Saturday was just this idea of this sucks, this works, this doesn't work, let's create together. So we had this thing called the glazed and gravy, which it was pretty much biscuits and gravy but with a glazed donut and a fried egg. And so it's one of the most popular dishes in Kansas City. If you haven't had it, it was life-changing. But how it happened was just out of my kitchen. We made biscuits and gravy that day for all of our friends, and because I knew my donuts were probably going to suck that morning, so I just took a glazed donut, I threw sausage or gravy over it, and put a fried egg on it, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's the most amazing thing in the world, and it was one of our most popular food items on our menu. So.
Okay, so now you're going to open a donut lounge.
Yeah.
Now, I'm assuming because you had never owned a donut lounge, nor a chain of donut lounges or anything else, that you had to pay for this out of your own pocket.
Yes.
Or you had maybe a couple people that gave you a few bucks or something along the way.
That's exactly it.
But for the, because new businesses fail more than not, you don't just walk down to the bank and get a big loan for your donut lounge. So you got to come up with some money.
You got to have money to get money.
Correct.
That is
which is like the
law 101.
Yeah, and to put the donut before the egg there, or whatever we want to say. Like it's a challenge.
I see
right?
where you're going with that.
Well, I wasn't intentionally going there. And for those of you listening, like yes, this episode is about business failure, and you do want to stick around and keep listening because this does get
people
interesting.
Are like, I don't care about donuts.
Right. Well, they do though, because the thing is there's a lot to be heard here. So now all of a sudden, you're opening the donut lounge.
Well,
and that's what it was called, right?
It was called Donut Lounge, exactly. I might have to start back before that because that's really where failure started.
All right, tell me about it.
So, to open the doors, and this people out there who are thinking about restaurants or anything like that is they call it change of use, and that's when our building was a clothing store, and we were changing it over to a restaurant. Hey, 101, I was an idiot. Don't ever do that because you got to worry about ADA. You got to worry about all of these plumbing issues. I mean, all your mechanical and HVAC. It's just a whole nother world.
So you had to spend some money doing that.
Well, let's talk.
Or just getting it.
So lessons learned. Here we go. So I talk about surrounding myself with people that are better than me. So I had a few little business partners. They brought some money to the table. So I went to the SBA, Small Business Association. I said, I had this idea. Here's my business plan. Here's my partners. Here's my life insurance. Here's everything I got. Here's my personal signature. Here's all of my stuff. Can I have money? And they said, oh my gosh, this is a great concept. It's proven. Here we go. So here's some money. So we go to open the doors. And my architect went AWOL. I can't make this stuff up. We hired a design firm. And the design firm literally, when I say screw us over, they screwed us over so bad. Like, we brought them into the building like 5 or 6 times, and we were like, how much is our plumbing going to be? How much is our HVAC going to be? What it's going to cost? And they're like, oh, plumbing's about $15,000. Well, finally, we started breaking ground and getting things in there. Plumbing was $76,000. So again, lessons learned is like, don't always trust. You got to get multiple people involved, get multiple opinions. And I was naive. I was so tunnel vision. I wanted to get these doors open. We had a great concept, great idea, but the problem started before we ever even opened the doors. Our capital, we had to go borrow more money. We had to bring in more investments. My fear and anxiety at this point in my life, this is where they don't teach you in any school or anything, is where when fear and anxiety and that it starts taking over your life. I got 2 little girls at home, a wife who's looking at me like, what did we sign up for? And we haven't even opened the doors yet. We haven't got to the hard part yet.
Yep. So, but now you have a different issue because now you're in. Like, you got a lot in. And like,
I got a 5-year lease. I owe people a lot of money.
And in poker, they call that being pot committed. Like, you've got so many chips in the middle, you might as well play out the rest of the hand and see what happens. But you don't have much of a choice at that point.
Well, that's the problem, is choice. I love being in control. It's one of those things when I feel out of control is where my anxiety, and I didn't even know I had anxiety until this point. I mean, I'm not joking. I don't know if life was easy or what, or that
it's different when it's yours and it's on the table, and you talk about having kids and stuff like that, and like, I mean, that's the big difference when it comes to handling failure. Now, one of the things that you mentioned was talking about that level of fear and anxiety coming in, and until you're staring it right in the face, you have no idea how you're going to react. You feel like you know. And then you learn whether you're right or not about that, and it's real. And then one of the things I look back at. So I've never really been one that's really I've never really feared failure, but when I had kids, it changed my perspective. Yeah. I suddenly was like, oh wow, I've got other people that I've got to maybe because I don't know, my wife and I joke, somehow things always seem to work out for me, but I don't think it's just magic. Like, I keep after it, and like, I don't know. I mean, you always hear the stories about, you remember that old Greek story about Icarus who flew too close to the sun and his wings melted and he fell to the ground? Well, my theory is if you fly fast enough, you can go all the way through the sun before your wings melt, and it's like a completely different feeling. Yeah. But like I said, but until you know how you're going to react to staring failure in the face, you don't know. Like, you sink or you swim. Some people literally just like curl up in a ball and die.
That's what, dude. It kicked.
Is that what happened?
Oh, from the out. If you met me like on the street, you'd be like, okay, this guy's fine. But like behind closed doors, it hit me so hard that, I was waking up at 4 a.m. every morning puking.
Normal. Well, maybe not the puking, but the waking up, like the anxiety.
Oh, sure. just cold sweats. Like, what did I sign up for? Can I do this? And then all of a sudden, like, I was like, I'm a confident person. I'm a passionate person. And then for the first time looking at it going, I bit off more than I can chew. I can't do this. What did I sign up for? What is going on? And I'm out of control. And that's where, again, like the architects kind of going AWOL, the price of the build outs are going crazy.
And you start asking yourself at this point, like, was this all just a really, really, really bad idea? Is the world telling me to just stop now?
Yeah.
But you didn't.
I know.
Okay, so let's move on.
Okay, let's do it.
Now here we go. You actually managed to get this thing open.
I did.
With some extra investment or loans or something along like that.
I had to borrow more money, and because I believed in it. You're right. You just got to.
So you're passionate about it.
You got to keep fighting. You see the end result. You know that once you open these doors, because what was happening at the same time, there was this buzz happening. We were in every local newspaper. We were in every magazine. People are going, "What is this thing? And when is it going to open?" Because we were 6 months behind opening the doors, which was another big deal for capital and everything else. Right. But there was so much buzz, so here we go. We opened the doors, and the lines wouldn't stop. They would not stop. And people are like, "Wow, good job, man." I'm like, I guess.
The same people that probably told you were fucking crazy.
Oh, everyone thought you were crazy.
Yeah, that's pretty normal.
Yeah.
All right.
So, but
now you went from like, now you're like, oh my God, the whole world the sky was falling. Yeah. The wings were melting. Yeah. The insanity was setting in, and now all of a sudden you're a genius.
Well,
these are the ups and downs, people. These are the ups and downs.
And here's where I had this guy in Westport tell me one time, I was grinding the cement floors at 1 o'clock in the morning, right? I'm doing all the work myself to try to get these doors open. Guy knocks on my window. Guy walks in and says, "Hey man, you okay?" And I'm like, "No." He's like, "Dude, I'm here. If you need anything, let me know." Guy lives in Westport. Became one of my good friends. And he says to me, he goes, "You think it's hard now? Wait till you open the doors."
Yeah.
And I thought this guy was the craziest guy I ever met in my life. And I wanted to punch him in the face.
Easy. Yeah.
And so we open the doors, and then we can talk about all hell breaks loose.
Right.
Because to have a lot of people is great. Candidly, we did over $1 million our first year.
Okay, so let's make that a milestone. So now this crazy ass donut lounge idea opens, and now all of a sudden the line's out the door.
Yep.
People want the donut with the gravy and the eggs, and that sounds really good, actually. I think I'd be into that.
Dude, we had like the DL39. It was the Q39 burnt ends it was like an eggs Benedict donut sandwich. We had,
Stop.
Dude, we had
You're making me hungry, bro.
We had the little Frenchie, which was French toast donuts. We had gorgeous plates, and then our donuts were incredible as well. S'mores, maple bacon. We had the Dolly, which was a sheep cheese custard with root beer glaze and basil. But
wait, Jake, I thought we were talking about business failures here. I thought we were talking about business failures.
I know.
So you finally got this open. And you do $1 million in sales, $1 million in donuts, which we just already talked about. If done well, can be a pretty high margin product.
It can.
So wait a minute. I thought we were on the chain. I thought, aren't we about to open like 900 new places and like this is going to be the thing? Like,
yeah.
Well, was it?
No. So the funny is, you do $1 million, but the ultimate.
And by the way, 99% of businesses will never do $1 million in revenue.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's like, and I don't quote me on that. It's really close. It's really close because most businesses are small service provider kind of businesses, and that's a lot of volume.
So here we go. So we open the door.
This is what you've been waiting for, people. 23 minutes in, we're going to get to the punchline.
Yes. Open the doors, and again, all hell breaks loose. So the lines won't stop, which you think is a great idea. But when you're talking about waste management, inventory control, quality control, we kept running out of donuts.
Not good.
We were pissing off everybody. The guy that's waiting in line for 30 minutes comes up, and all's left is like the crumbs in the case, and he's So we didn't know what we were doing. We were literally almost making it up because there was no other donut lounge. There wasn't like a manuscript or a manual that says, "Hey, do this." I mean, our bakers, all of our employees were so overworked. They were underpaid. Everyone's trying to make this thing work, and we just started to see and then my biggest issue was we didn't have good books. I mean, we literally got the doors open. We had enough. I had like $500 in the bank account the day we opened our doors.
So if you had opened like 2 days later, you might not have even opened.
We almost didn't open the doors.
Yeah.
And so we had the first 6 months was crazy. It was the hardest 6 months. I didn't sleep. But there was a sense of pride that we built something, and people are showing up. And hell, Food Network was calling us. We were on the front page of USA Today. We were in an article in Rachel Ray magazine. I all of a sudden sit back going, what did we just do? And I can't even, at this point too, I'm dealing with this fear and dealing with this anxiety, still kind of going through this shit, to be honest with you, is trying to still, I had 46 employees.
In one donut lounge?
In one donut lounge.
That sounds like a lot.
Well, there we go. So you can think about what that labor looked like.
Yeah.
But trying to...
Now all of a sudden that $1 million of revenue does not sound like a whole lot, man.
Exactly.
I'm sitting here thinking, wait,
So
okay,
there you
that's
go.
a problem.
So
let's do some math. So
Yes.
if you have 40 people that make $25,000 a year, that's $1 million.
There you go. Now, when you say about this, dude, a lot of part-time, because,
Still.
they're baristas, they're bartenders, maybe there's some servers, and a lot of bakers, but you're right.
Okay, so you're getting all this heat, all this hype. Think about this, people like USA Today, Rachel Ray, the Food Network, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, but now you start realizing you're like, okay, well, this seemed like a good idea, but is this even sustainable?
So at first I was like, wow, there was so much money coming in. We were doing, geez, oh Pete's, 80, 90,000 a month. And I'm going, oh my gosh. And again, besides labor, profitability is pretty darn good on a cocktail or on a donut. So I'm thinking, okay, we can hold the line, but something happened. And this is if, Grant Gooding, he'll tell, the why. Why did this happen? I don't know. So if somebody can answer this for me.
You just picked one of the most analytical people I know, and now you're comparing it to the least exact planning process I've heard about in a while. But
what I'm saying is we in August, I think it was August, we were doing 80, 90,000 a month. September hit, and we went to 50.
Why?
That's what I'm saying. I don't, to this day.
I bet I have an idea, though, because on some level, some of those things are novelty.
There we
So and I think about it, and so you had hype.
Yes.
And that's great, and hype makes the line happen.
Yeah.
And then, but here's the thing is, on some levels, how many times are you really, really, really going to wait in that long-ass line for that donut?
Exactly.
So that starts to set in. But at this point, I bet you had ratcheted things up because you got to service the line. You got to deal with it. Am I right?
You're so right. So now we're just starting to dial things in. And by the way, let me back up. So my baker, my head chef, my baker moved back to Chicago. It's a long story, but he was only with me for a few months, so he's gone. I had 3 business partners. One moved to LA within the first month. One was dealing with a restaurant that fell down in Liberty. He was gone within the first month. And another business partner literally was part of another huge operations that was exploding. He was a CEO, and he's like, Jake, I love you, but I got to go. So what I'm saying is, and this is not the boo-hoo me, but what I'm saying is 46 employees, HR, marketing, things are crazy, and I'm trying to hold the line. And so you can't. Not one person, no matter how good your management is that they don't care about your baby. They're not going to work as hard as you.
I say that a lot, Jake. I tell people, and I get a lot of people that have sought my counsel or input in life when it comes to business, and still do. And the one thing I say, and there's a turning point. I literally wrote about this in $1 Million Bedroom. Your employees will never care as much as you do.
Never.
And you have to, and until you accept that, it's just going to make you crazy. It's going to literally eat away at you. And I remember literally having moments talking to myself, why don't they care? But then finally one day I was like, you know what? and maybe I don't remember if someone said something to me, or maybe I just realized it, but I just accept it now. And so, all right, but that's an issue, because what you're describing is there's a lot of stress. There's a lot of like, you work in a place like that, and it's chaotic, and there's not necessarily protocol, and now you have turnover, and the chef's gone, and there's a lot of part-time people, and what, part-time people are like, I don't give a shit, I'll just go get a job somewhere else.
That's exactly it. Yep.
So you got a whole lot of things going on,
and I'm burning bridges because now I'm stressed. I'm trying to be a good boss. I'm trying to take care of my team. I'm trying to but they don't, and I don't blame them. They want to show up, they want a paycheck, they want to go home, and they want to leave it at home. I wanted them to, the biggest realization is that my expectations were so skewed. I thought we were going to create this community, we were going to be this kumbaya culture, and we were going to change the world, and we were going to create this incredible place within my team. They had great intentions, and they worked their asses off, but they didn't, like you're saying, the hardest truth to me was they don't care. They want to show up. They don't
share that same vision. You just described like a donut-topia. And the thing is like we were talking, part of what we're trying to do is help you avoid some failure, but from my side of the studio here, some of that was an unrealistic expectation.
Yes.
In the end, you're a place that makes donuts.
Yeah.
Not necessarily like what you just described, I don't know, like I said, it's something completely different.
It's completely.
Yeah.
I was using donuts as almost a piece to create something else.
Right.
I mean, I wanted Donut Lounge to be more than just a donut shop. I wanted to create an environment of people that could have conversation, that I wanted to create something way more than donuts.
Now, next you tried to fix some of this stuff. Didn't you go a little deeper down the rabbit hole?
Yeah, so tried to fix a lot, because, and that's the problem is when they call it lizard brain, it's when it's the fight or flight situation.
Yeah.
When you're not thinking right.
Yep.
You're just in, I'm going to die, and I got to do anything and everything I can to die.
Right.
And that's where I lived. That's where I'm at in life right now. Is my team hates me. No one. I mean, I'm not the cool. I'm such a people pleaser, and that the company's morale's down, our turnover's down, and then that $30,000 hit in 1 month just set us. I wasn't ready for it. We were rampant. We were getting ready to change the world, and now what just happened? Now, looking back, there were some things happening in Westport. There was a lot of crime. There was 3 gunshots, 3 people killed or something within the first month.
That's all the anger from waiting in the line, dude.
Give me my damn donut. There was a lot of parking issues starting to happen because there was development happening. Yep. So they started taking away all the parking. So there's some outside, I'm trying to think through what is happening and try to get my head. So I start reaching.
But if you want to avoid failure, you have to develop some. So I've helped a lot of people plan businesses, and whenever I do these projections, and I literally put a line in there that says "oh shit," and I make it.
I read that in your book.
Yeah, I make it a percentage of revenue. And I've had people get mad at me. They're like, "I want to take this out." I'm like, "That would be the dumbest thing you would do."
You said the other thing is daisies and rainbows or cotton candy or something in your book.
You can't assume that's gonna happen. So the "oh shit" line is, people are like, "Well, what is this?" I'm like, "That means oh shit, I forgot to think that I might need to do that." And depending on the predictability of a business is going to predict on the number that I'm going to use as the percentage of the anticipated revenue for that. So with certain things, you can if you were running a delivery company that dropped off pianos, your oh shit lines, because eventually you're going to drop one. Or just different things and just some different stuff like that, and but that's difficult to do in very untested concepts. So that's definitely something to
I wish we had an oh shit line. I mean, honestly.
Well, right, because it's a buffer.
Yeah.
And it's exactly that. And the newer or the least tested, you're like, dude, you said these things don't come with an owner's manual. So that's a huge mistake that I think leads to failure that I see a lot of people make, is they want to assume, they think everything's going to go right and whatever, assume that it's all going to go wrong.
Yep.
And then be happy when only part of it does. So that was part of the failure there.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, 100% is that I think we were never ready for the success, and we were never ready for the oh shit line.
Right.
We weren't ready for either.
Now,
we
I
thought,
want to back up because I want to make sure we're on the same page, because you talked about selling $1 million worth of donuts, or was that just based on the first month?
No, year 2000.
So at this point, we're actually like in year 2.
So we're getting to year 2. No, like, so January, February, March, April. December, January, February, March, April. So April, 5 months. Mm-hmm. And then it started hitting.
Okay, and then
then we started going up, going down, going up, going down. And we're like, whoa. Like, something is just off. I mean, things just started getting a little weird. And that's when we just started doing stupid stuff. I started borrowing more money. I started figuring out, like, okay, like, how am I going to pay payroll this month? Like, why do we, we're starting to run out of product, and we're starting to, like, try to figure out inventory. And things just started getting really, like, to be candid, like, uncontrollable. I just started losing control of my employees. I started losing control of what we're doing, like the quality control, like all these things just started kind of unraveling. And a lot of it's me. I know the beginning of failure is that I just kind of started losing my passion, started losing my control.
That's a big sign. And if you're listening and you lose your passion for what you're doing, it's a problem.
Yeah.
And back to the whole talking, I spend all day, every day talking to people about their businesses at this point, which, by the way, I'm so happy I get to do that. Like, I love doing that.
Yeah.
But you get some people that come in and you say, well, are you passionate about this? They're like, yeah, I want to make money. I'm like, you're not going to last. I'm like, what do you mean? I'm like, because it's going to get hard. And if you're not passionate about it, you're going to quit.
Well, I feel like, you get into the ring, right? And you get your butt kicked for like 9 rounds, right? And the 10th round, you got like you got 2 things. Either step up and keep fighting and maybe get that extra wind, or you're just going to keep getting beat up again. And like, have
you heard the Mike Tyson quote?
No.
So, people are like, well, I got a plan. Well, Mike Tyson's really famous for saying everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face. And it's true.
It is so.
It's true, because your plan is never going to go the way
No.
that you think it will.
Yeah.
And because you had a plan.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, but now the plan's not going the way we needed to. And then you say, well, why is that? And then you can start trying to do things different.
Yeah.
And sometimes, hey, look, I look back. So before I owned a business, I helped manage a chain of retail stores, and I had a really great mentor at the time. But I was talking to him. I said, man, I can't get all my locations to have a great month in the same month. And he laughed out loud. He's like, you never will. You never will. Like, it's just never possible that everything is going to go right. Like, it's just not probable. Like, there's just shit happens.
Yep.
There are things that you can control, and this is what you're now starting to figure out. There's things you can control, and there's things you cannot. Now, did you start getting yourself really wrapped up in the things you couldn't control?
Of course.
And then that swallowed you up.
Exactly. You start focusing on, like, the minute things.
Yep.
You start really grabbing for anything.
No matter how bad you want to control those things, you still won't.
Yes.
And that's a problem, because now you've pulled yourself away from your ability to manage and control the things that you can actually have an effect on. And this is something, so now you're talking about lizard brain, and you're talking about this fight or flight and like whatever, and you're doing anything and everything you can, and like at some point you're like, you know what, I'm already screwed if this gets, so why not go 9 levels deeper, right? And this happens a lot. Now, a lot of times with business failure, there's certain things, you have the inability to adapt. Some people just sit there and go, you know what, things will get better. And then they just ride the ship full speed right into the rocks.
Yep.
And then in your case, like, you're trying to control the things you can't control, which is now removing your ability to manage the things you can.
That's right.
And these are all things. So, like, you think about an airplane flying through the sky. If all of a sudden okay, now it wobbles. And now if it starts spinning, your inability to get it back on track is very difficult. So now you're in a situation where, okay, you're spinning.
Yep.
What next?
Well, and the other part is...
But are people still at this point, or they're like, dude, this concept's genius, and this is just amazing, and like...
From the outside in, people thought we were just printing money.
Right.
People are like, oh my... Because we're getting so much... like, locally, nationally, we are getting so much hype and cool things happening, and we continue to come out with cool product. We are continue to innovate. We are continue to have fun with whether it be our cocktail program or our donut program.
But it's a business.
But it's a business.
In the end, if you can't make money off of it, it will.
Well, yes. The other part I was going to say too is as it's going out of control is one thing. I look back now as I started blaming.
Yeah.
I started blaming.
And blaming is a big source of anger.
It was
the more, blaming is anger.
Yeah.
And like the more of it, but it breeds more.
Yeah. I started looking at everything.
You're doing this wrong. You're doing this wrong. Yep. Like, why can't you do that better or whatever? Yeah.
Instead of owning up to my reality, I started really looking at things going, well, if you would just do that, and you said you were going to do that, and all of a sudden I'm like, who am I? Like, what am I? But again, that plane, is starting to spiral. Yeah. And as it started to spiral more and more, things really began to start really the plane was crashing. And it was crashing really fast, really hard.
And it picks up speed.
Really?
On the way to the ground.
The problem, I think, again, back to just, you doing things that one thing is I wasn't asking for the right help. I wasn't bringing people into my life to like really help me figure this out. And there was a few times I tried and it didn't, and like I felt let down by some mentors or people who said they were going to help and maybe help me figure this out, and they didn't show up. And so
really in the end, it's because people care. And people are largely self-absorbed.
Yeah.
Because you're going to be the same way. In the end, really in the end, like we kind of just, we're all selfish.
Well, I started looking into like, can I get out of this? I started looking into, does somebody want to buy this? And I started looking, and
trying to sell a business that's like a year old that isn't profitable and doesn't really have and it doesn't sound like there was a whole lot of repeatability here.
If you don't know,
so you can't franchise it, even though people are like, you should. I bet you heard that like 10 times a day.
People would call me at least once a week from all over the country. Here's the problem. If you don't know where you are, you don't know where you're going.
Yeah.
And
that's a great point.
And I didn't know where I was.
Yeah.
My books were so skewed. I didn't have good, that's one of, again, back to failure 101s is we were printing money from the beginning, and I thought to myself, I'll get to the books when we have a chance. I'll get to that when I can breathe. I'll get to that. And by the time I got to that, it was too late. Our books are so whacked. So people would be like, I want to see your books. Let me see what this thing's worth and how much you lost here and here. And I'm giving them something. They'd be like, what is this? I'm like,
this isn't even balanced. This doesn't even make sense.
It makes no sense. And so I try to bring in some...
Nothing's a bigger red flag.
Yeah, it was bad.
Yeah.
It was bad. I could show you, like, this is how much money we made, And
but where is it? Yeah,
exactly.
Because you didn't make shit.
We didn't make nothing.
Yeah, so here the plane's heading.
Yep.
Impact.
Here
Brace for impact.
Yep. I started going counseling, and I highly recommend that. So I was getting so bad. My marriage was getting out of control. Trying to be a father and waking up in the morning and try to be present. That was the biggest thing I realized is I was drinking way too much. I couldn't be in a conversation. You would talk to me. My wife would talk to me. I'd be at the dinner table, but I was so gone. Somebody would say something and it would make me think of payroll. Somebody would say something and make me think I have to fix the HVAC. I could not be in the moment. And it was the scariest part of my life is that I don't even know what you're saying. I'm just nodding my head going, okay. So
I will tell you, and there are over the last decade that I've been and I've had that feeling. For me, like, fortunately, I have a wife that I can express that to and say, hey, look, I got to go fix this, or we're going to have way bigger issues than me not paying attention to what you're saying right now. Like, for real. And honestly, like, because, and in those cases, but if you don't have that, that's a challenge too, because it's hard to be present when you feel like everything's on fire around you.
Yeah. So two things were happening. You're right. My wife is a saint, and she's in the same way. And she's looking at me going, Jake, who are you? Like, first of all, like, you're there somewhere in there. You're there, and I see it. So we got to go figure that out. But two, she was the biggest she believed in Donut Lounge when I couldn't. Yeah. Because the truth of the concept and the low-hanging fruit, and I say this, man, it sucks to say, and it even hurts to say, like almost brings tears to my eyes. Donut Lounge would have worked if it wasn't me. That sucks. If somebody else was running Donut Lounge, I bet you it would have worked.
I don't know if that's necessarily true, because they're going to, I mean...
Because about restaurant, and again, looking back, is to understand, in the restaurant industry especially, is you got to know where every penny's going. And you got to know every dollar. You got to know your inventory. You got to know your waste. You got to know and we just did not have the operational... I did not have the integrity of the organization or the people really around me to take a $1-point-something million company the first year and make it what it could be. And I'm not saying that to like...
Let's do this. All right. The plane's going to hit the ground here in a second.
Yes.
We have to hit that, and then we'll take a couple, because we're running out of time, a little bit out of time here, and I want to make sure we get... Well, no, we're good. We don't really have a time limit, but I want to make sure we get to some of the recap too, because I think that's important. So here it is. Impact.
I'm at a counseling...
You see it coming. By the way, business owners that fail, they see it coming, and everyone's like handling it differently. Yeah, I mean, they really are. Like some people, I've been around a lot of businesses that have failed, not necessarily like firsthand, but before I was an entrepreneur, I worked in the music industry, so I'm very familiar with some of the things that you did. But
yeah.
We recently did an episode about music retail, and it's changed so much. Like two out of three stores are gone.
Oh man!
And when I used to work for Roland, and I was dealing with dealerships that were in 13 states, and this was like right after the housing bubble time. So like everyone was screwed on 10 different levels, and I saw all these people handle it differently. So let's talk about impact.
Yeah.
How did that come? Because look, when the plane's spinning and you're heading to the ground, you're trying to pull it out of its spin. And then at some point, you might be able to get the parachute out.
Yeah.
And then maybe you're just like, you know what? I'm going to die.
Yeah.
Like, how did this, let's talk about that.
So at a counseling session, and the counselor says, well, put it on the date. By this date,
if you're not winning,
then it's time to pull. Then let's pull the plug.
Eject, right.
So let's eject. So we put it on the calendar. And I'm thinking I got enough maybe to keep payroll at least, because the last thing, I don't want to hurt anybody.
Yep.
I don't want to I can't even imagine or fathom closing the doors, locking everything, and I still owe everyone a paycheck.
By the way, that's another thing too that I've seen be a real root cause of business failure is the inability to make some tough decisions.
Yes.
Because you care about the people that are around you, and you don't want to let them down, and you can go down that rabbit hole, that trickle down effect. I don't want to, blah 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 blah, and the next thing you know, you just lock up.
And the more I think I'm caring for people, the more they're mad at me now.
So this date clearly arrived, though.
Okay, so we got to, since for time's sake, the plane is about ready to crash, but it doesn't. So there's a part 2 to the story.
Oh my God, do we have to do a second episode?
We might have to. Pretty much, we put it on the date. On that date, and I can't make this up, and I'm not BSing anybody. A man walks in my door and offers to buy my company.
A Hail Mary. Oh my God, we are gonna have to do a second one.
The Hail Mary hits.
Oh my God, oh man, you didn't tell me there was gonna be a surprise twist.
Yep.
Oh my God, you know what? We're gonna stop. We're gonna stop because I feel like, is there more? There's got to be a lot more here.
It gets even worse.
Oh my God, we're gonna have to do a second one. Like clearly, by the way, and for those of you listening, I am not making this up, right? Like this was not planned. Like I did not realize that there was a whole nother part to this.
There's a whole nother year.
What?
Yeah.
Oh man, we're gonna stop right now.
No,
we're gonna
great.
break this up because this clearly needs. We were going to have this be business failure 101, but we're clearly going to have a 200 level.
Let's do it.
So come back for the next one, folks.